welcome guys to another episode of the Footy Game Day Squad show. I'm your host Cal, and joining me today I've got Kerm and Tom. Guys, how are we doing?
Week 2, I'm keen to get stuck into this.
Yeah, same mate. We got a great game on tonight as well. Carlton versus the Doggies. Keen to see who comes out in that one. But yeah, let's get right into this, eh?
Absolutely. We're here for our second round of the preview show, brought to us, of course, by GameDay Squad, Australia's first and only fantasy blockchain game, launching a fantasy AFL and NRL game tomorrow. That's right, 25th of March, we will be releasing.
Let's go.
So if you've not heard of us, is this your first time here to GameDay Squad, check us out below in the links. We'll be pumping everything live. Yeah, you won't be able to miss it on any of our socials, so make sure you're staying tuned for that. So, like I said, we are recording. It's about 6 o'clock here, or coming up 6 o'clock here, Queensland time, 7 o'clock for you guys down a bit south. So we are going to miss, or we're going to finish right before the end of that, or the start of the Carlton game, but which should be a cracker, as you've said, Tom.
Oh, yeah.
But as we're always going to do here with our preview shows, we're going to throw straight to you, Kerm. You are going to give us all the news of what's just happened with team news. So, over to you, mate.
And the biggest in of the week is actually tonight. It's Sammy Walsh, the podcast's favourite player, my boy. Sammy Walsh, he's back. I'm so keen to watch him play some footy. Only 37 days after he had surgery, by the way.
Wow,
wow, that does not seem right, hey?
Yeah,
what
I thought
a
he was
gun.
written off for weeks when it first happened. They were saying sort of 5-6 weeks out of the season, but no, he's there.
Superman
they're gonna be
on
good.
and off the field. Another big in is Essendon's Jake Stringer. He's back. They're really excited to get him stuck into the midfield. A lot of midfield time during the preseason, so it's keen to see what his role's going to be when he's back. Sorry. A big in for Freo. Sean Darcy is trending in the right way to play. So he's actually named in the squad. I'm a big fan of Sean Darcy as well. One of my favourite ruckmen, and we'll talk about him later on in the show, I think. But Sean
One of your favourites, almost I'd say your favourite. What are you talking about? Claim him.
I will claim him. He's mine. Mitch Duncan is back for Geelong, which is a massive in for Geelong. They really needed that spark last week. Not really. They were fine with
They
him.
were dominant without him, mate. I was about to say,
Exactly.
what are you...
Yeah.
I'm scared as a Swans fan going up against him this week with him back.
Yeah, so they got Jed Hughes and Mitch Duncan back, which is a massive in for them. And Jake Lloyd is actually back for your Swannies, Tom.
That is some great news. That is
Massive
exactly
news
what I
off
want
the
to
back
hear.
flank.
Oh, yes.
Massive news off the back flank. You really missed him. Not really. But yeah, Jake Lloyd is back for fantasy owners. That's a massive one. But for the outs, it's a little bit of a sad one. Everyone's new favourite player from Essendon, Nick Martin, is out with health and safety protocols. Everyone was high on him after last week. I know Tom's shaking his head right now.
Mate, that's no good. You'll see why I'm shaking my head in a minute.
Okay, we'll move on from Nick Martin. But yeah, he's out. Christian Salem, another fantasy-relevant defender, he's out for a minimum 6 weeks. Really big out for Melbourne, as he was one of their better players at the back end of last year and looked good for about 20 seconds last week, but he's out for 6. Adam Chera is out with health and safety protocols as well. Really big out for them. I was pretty excited to see how Chera, Walsh and Cripps was going to work as a dynamic when they're all three of them are together, but we're going to have to wait another week to see how that plays out. And Dusty Martin could be out this week. He's one to watch. He's out with personal issues. Hope was all as well with that. So it's not confirmed that he's out, but he's definitely trending in the out sort of direction there. So Dusty Martin looks to be out, which is a bit of a shame.
Alrighty, now this is going to be the final week that we don't have pack of the week. As of next week, we are starting promotion where we want people to send in their best pack drop of the week from Game Day Squad. So whether that be to us on Instagram, on our Discord, however you want to contact us, there's so many different ways. We'll make sure we leave them all in the comments, the description below, where you're the best way to do it. We'll be sharing the best pack that we think, and then that person will be getting a prize. So while people are down there having a look at the comments, Tom, I think you're normally pretty good at wrapping this up, well, rattling it off. What do they need to do?
Guys, if you like the content and you're getting just as keen as us for the fantasy season approaching, leave a like on the video, subscribe, push those post notifications so you get a notification when we're uploading our next videos, because we're going to be releasing heaps more content for you and plenty more fantasy breakdowns to help you get game day ready.
Exactly. And a lot more stuff around the platform itself, which we're super excited for. So thanks, Tom. You handled that so much better than me trying to mumble my way through it. So,
got you, bro.
What we do roll into then is what we call our dream team. Now, we've all taken a little bit of a different approach about how we go about this. So we went through it last week and we spoke about the 22 players that we want in our dream team. So for me, these are the 22 players I'd pick for my absolute dynasty team. Tom's a little bit more. These are the 22 that I'd want to win now with, and Kerm's sort of somewhere in between. So you get a bit of a different perspective on what we're all sort of looking at. Of course, when we do launch with Game Day Squad, we'll be switching back to that and talking to you exactly about our teams and how everything's going. But with these teams, we're still going to make sure we're abiding by what the Game Day Squad rules are. So you'll see that we've only got 5 midfielders, 6 forwards, 6 backs, 1 bench and 4 ruck spots. And you're only allowed to make 2 changes every week.
4 ruck spots, mate. That's OP.
1 ruck spot, 4 bench spot.
That sounds about right.
I was going to say, do a Kangaroos and play 4 ruckmen, didn't they? On the one against the Hawks the other day. They played God. 3. Geez, 3 was bad enough. Can you imagine 4? But Tom, you can get us started. Talk to us. What are the changes you've made to your rolling dream team?
Yep. Thanks, mate. I've made 2 changes this week, and both are in the forward line. So I'll start from the backs, then I'll go through the changes once I get to the forwards. It's Sam Dougherty, Lockie Whitfield, Jack Siebel, Dyson Heppel, Tom Stewart, Jordan Dawson as my backs. My midfielders, Christian Petrarca, Callum Mills, Tuke Miller, Jack Steele, Tom Mitchell, and the ruck being Brodie Grundy. Forwards, Chad Wingard, Dustin Martin, Mitch Duncan, Isaac Heaney were all there last week, but my 2 new replacements are Nicholas Martin, and that's why it hurt me so much when you said it, Kerm, during the weekly news. And I've got Jack Gunston, a guy that I was pretty bullish on in the preseason. I thought he was having a good season. I liked what I saw in round 1. So I reckon he's deserved a spot in my best 18. I've taken out Lance Franklin and Toby Green. Of course, Toby Green is suspended for 6 weeks. And I was a little bit silly putting him in round 1 because I'm looking at this as win now in comparison to dynasty like Callum. And my bench is Jack Lukosius, Max Gawn, Hugh McCluggage, and Jake Stringer, which is awesome to hear that he's back because he might find a spot in that lineup very soon.
Fully nuts in on Nick Martin. I love it.
Yeah, geez, that's
massive.
Early.
How can you not? And we spoke about last podcast how many uncontested possessions he was getting in the game. He is playing off the midfielders perfectly. And if he can continue to do that with how electric he is and how quick he is through the middle, plus finishing a lot of goals, that's a player I need.
Yeah, I can't believe if you're gone for the win now and you've left Dan Houston, who would have scored 170 plus game day squad points. He dominated. You left him out. Lukosius has survived, but that's the beauty of it. You only get 2 trades, right? So
I only get 2. And you guys teased me last week for having no youngsters in the team. So Nick Martin was an obvious pick. I was like, get a youngster in. Nice little dynasty player. Just starting to round off the squad.
Beautiful. Kerm, we'll flick over to yours on screen now. What changes have you made to your team that we can see there?
So yeah, my team's much the same as last week, but I've kicked a couple out of the bench spots. So Daniel Rich is gone. I didn't like him last week. I didn't like the role he was playing. And Jack Graham from Richmond is gone as well. He had nowhere near the impact on the game that I thought he would. So I've brought in Sam Dougherty. I really, really, really loved the game that he played last week. It was just vintage Sam Dougherty the way he played. He found the footy like it was.
Welcome.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Sam Dougherty Club. Let's go.
I love being on this train. And I've actually brought in Jordan De Goey as well. So he started at the centre bounce, which I was really, a little bit like, who's going to start at the bounce here, whether Scotty Pendlebury is going to be in there, whether it's just a smoke screen for the public to know that Scotty Pendlebury is going to be playing on the halfback flank, which was so weird, by the way. But I've actually brought Jordan De Goey in. He had a good week last week, kicked a goal and got some touches as well.
Great week. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, really good. And they're going to be leaning on him a lot. The other change I've made is Sean Darcy's now starting as my ruckman now that he's back. So Brodie Grundy's gone to the bench, and I've brought Sam Darcy into my active squad. So that is my final change.
Well, that didn't last long. All 3 of us had Brodie Grundy starting last week, and Kerm has already given him the flick to the bench. I love that, though. Love that move from
on the pine, mate. On the pine.
Yeah, you're always on lining up Sean Darcy, though. You were massive on him for so long. Yeah. So, yeah, no surprise you brought him straight in.
This week.
Yeah.
And let's flick over to your team, Callum. What have you done for us?
I was going to say you've stuck with Short.
I did stick with Short.
He had a notable shocker last week.
He did. He was disgraceful. But no, I've given him another week. I've given him another week, and there's a lot I could have done with this defense because there was some shocking performances in defenses fantasy wide. But Short, I've decided to give another week. I was high on him through the preseason, and for fantasy managers out there, you don't want to overreact too much in week one. Week one doesn't tell you a lot, so stick with the guys you thought about all off-season, the research you've done, everything that you've put into it over the off-season, and I'm doing that with Short this week.
Or let us do the research for you.
Exactly.
That's what we are here for. I will flick over to mine now. So I've made 2 changes to my team. Now,
here we go.
Because I've taken the dynasty approach, things, I've definitely taken the long view, but things have got a lot better because you were naming off some people there, Kerm, that have been welcomed back into my squad that you can see there. So Duncan's back, Walsh is back, Lloyd is back, Darcy's back. With every line, I've just had someone come back in, so I can deal with Martin dropping out of my team, or not playing. But my 2 changes this week, I don't know if you can notice, there was someone I was pretty big on last week, but he has disappeared there for Jason Horne-Francis, and that's Josh Ward. So in our review show, I said hold. He was my hold. Don't buy, sell, hold. But I also remember we were very, very big on the buy Jason Horne-Francis. So that's my my change there. He's just too good. I liked him too much. I'm not going to get a spot on Fox Sports like you, Tom, going on and on about him, but he is very good. And my other change there that I've made maybe slipped under the radar because they're from the same team, same position. And that's Clayton Oliver out, Petrarca in. Petrarca came back round 1, hadn't missed a beat. I know the conversation this week is he the best player in the league? You can debate that, but there's no debate. He's in that conversation, and I think it'd be crazy not to have him in there. So, yeah, they're my 2 changes for the week.
Mate, I thought it was pretty crazy not to have him in round 1. That's exactly why I got him in my midfield. He is just that guy. He is so good. And you're too right. He just came out of preseason, round 1, and just looked like he just came off the ground from the grand final and just was that sort of same energy. He was just going for it. What a player.
Yeah. I think we were saying last week, this time myself and Kerm were big that the Demons would drop off this year, and Tom, you were saying we're a bit silly, and then by this time last week after the round 1 game, we were paddling off that island. So we're slowly trying to climb and get back on the Melbourne train. So if they'll have us. So what I want to pivot into here now is the next segment, which is the hot seat. So who wants to start and put someone on the hot seat for round 2?
Yeah, let me get started because this one's close to home, Kerm. I know you usually get this started, but I put Lance Franklin on the hot seat this week. Went to the game, as you guys know. Got to watch it from right down on the field, just seeing how he played, and it was not up to par. I do want to shout out the GWS key defender in Phil Davis. He was given an extraordinary tough task of tagging Buddy all game long and did a phenomenal job. You could tell just watching the game that the Swans wanted to work the ball in transition through Buddy Franklin, but he was limited to only 8 disposals, 7 kicks, a handball, and 1 goal for the evening. He just didn't look like his normal self, and fantasy managers plus Swans fans like myself are definitely expecting more out of the superstar in round 2. I'm putting him on the hot seat.
Okay, I've made a mistake there. Sorry, guys. I've accidentally pushed the stop button instead of the unmute because mine's not playing on my mic. The last word that I know Tom got to is stop, so I'm not sure. I'm sorry that's been an abrupt end. I did stop you, Tom. I know you were finishing up your point and how hard it was for Phil Davis on him doing a job. And then, Kerm, I think you're going to give your thoughts. So jump into what you thought about Tom putting Buddy on the hot seat.
I think it's fair enough. He looked very sluggish last week, and Phil Davis was all over him from the get-go. The question does remain when he's going to get that 1,000 goals. That's got to be playing on you. I know it'd be playing on me. So, I don't blame you for putting him on the hot seat at all.
Yeah, and look, we went through the stats there, and again, just in case you didn't hear it, it's 8 disposals, 7 kicks, a handball, and 1 goal for the evening. Extremely quiet, and especially considering how much they were targeting him and how much opportunity he was given to produce, not only in terms of the game, but in fantasy as well. Very disappointing, and I do expect more from him. And like Kerm said, it's round 1. It's not time to panic. It's not time to let go of everyone, although I did drop him out of my best 18, so it's a bit contradicting. If you do have him, he's a player you're going to want to play. He's going to get to, I think, about 40 goals this year. I think that's a pretty good floor to have as a player. I'm expecting a little bit more than that, but that's because I'm a Swans fan.
The preview show, the season prediction had him winning the Coleman. He's not going to win the Coleman with 40 goals, mate.
So let's just confirm a fantasy floor is the lowest that he would kick in a season. I'm predicting that he wins the Coleman, which will be
Sorry,
a lot higher.
I just wanted to see if you jumped off Buddy Island very early.
No, come on, mate. It's round 1. I just said it's not time to panic. But what's your thoughts on that, Callum? Do you think that's fair to put him on the hot seat, or?
Yeah, I'm glad you didn't throw me on the hot seat after I stopped your chat halfway through. So again, apologies for that. Yeah, it's a tough one. I thought there was a lot of pressure on. I never thought that he'd get his 1,000th goal in round 1. Never thought he'd get in round 2. I think it'll come in round 3 or 4. So not a surprise for me, but fair enough putting him in the hot seat because, yeah, people expect big things from Buddy.
Yeah, well, seeing as I interrupted Kerm, get into who's on your hot seat this week.
My hot seat, hot butts. I've actually gone with Jack Crisp here. I've thrown him on the hot seat. And last week he started in the guts.
Ooh.
And he just pretty much just went missing. He was gone. After you saw him at the start of the bounce, he was there in the guts and just did nothing afterwards. He only had 16 disposals, 1 mark and 3 tackles on the night, which is just not Crisp-like. So I've put him on here just to see how he plays this week. I'll keep a close eye on him to see where he plays and whether the Collingwood faithful put him back in the midfield or whether they chuck him back down on the flank. But for this week, he is on the hot seat. This could go terribly wrong because he is a fantasy stud. We do know that. But yeah, after last week in that midfield role, I just, sour taste in my mouth.
Did you guys see, I think it was Cripps, his missus or his partner put up a video of him and talking about fantasy? Like, don't drop him. Yeah, I didn't watch it all, but I saw the start of it. Yeah, funny. Yeah, that's a really good one because I think I tagged you guys in something pretty early in the first half of like a bit of a meme on Instagram of him trying to find the footy as well. So yeah, notably bad night, but you're right, stick with him. He's a gun, but definitely worth putting on the hot seat. Just to
and I agree with that as well. Yeah, look, it's just the expectation, what you expect from the player, and then what they deliver in round 1. It just wasn't there. But again, it's been probably a really long preseason. There's been a lot happening in the world. Let's be honest, so maybe it's just shaking out a couple cobwebs and getting back into form once he has more time, more consistency out there.
He's got the current affairs on his mind.
He can't get it out. It's all this head noise going on.
Yeah.
But what about you, Callum? Who are you going to smack on the hot seat this week?
I've gone Jack Lukosius. Now,
yes,
that's my man.
Come
on, bro.
As a group and as a podcast, we've probably spoken about this guy more than anyone should have spoken about him, or anyone probably has in the whole country. Somehow he ended up on my Dream 22 bench. I don't know how that happened, but after watching Houston and Foley and Burn-Jones have some massive scores as defenders in round 1, it doesn't look right having him there. So I'm putting him on the hot seat and trying to figure out how I did that. I did fall in love with him over the preseason and at the end of last year. I do think that there is a player there, but if he's not going to be consistent, I don't know if he would be there for too long. So there will be a lot of footy down back this weekend, Kerm, because you guys are, of course, playing the Demons. So yeah, definitely a big one to watch. So keen to see how that unfolds.
He's been splitting his time down back and up front. That's what's weird. And he only had 12 touches last week. That's not... If we're going to win games. I know we won last week. It wasn't a good game at all. We didn't play well. And West Coast had their D team out there. But if we're going to be playing good teams and trying to get results, Lukosius needs 20-plus disposals. Easy. Minimum. Because if he's our best kick, he's our best user by hand, by foot. He's one of the smartest players we have, footy IQ-wise. So if the ball's not in his hands, I just can't see us getting results. So a lot of people fell in love with him over the off-season because his kick is so good. But when he's only kicking it 11 times, that's where the inconsistencies come in.
Yeah, and for me, look, we were very bullish on him just because of the opportunity. The opportunity is there for a fantasy start in that back line. So we're looking at the different players, and Jack Lukosius is definitely one that stood out to me in the team. But let's be honest here. The worst thing in footy when you're playing yourself is getting moved from the backs to the forwards and continually moving positions.
You mean,
like, what sort of rhythm?
The forwards to the backs? Moving from back to forwards is a good thing. Moving from forwards to backs, that's no fun.
No, but like if you're a player, right, and you're trying to build a rhythm and trying to become a fantasy stud, let's say, he's not worried about fantasy at all. He's worried about winning games and representing his name and the club. But if you're going from backs and having to defend and then lock down someone to then being a forward and now you're trying to get the footy, you're just changing roles mid-game too much. The best rotations and the most traditional ones are from the backs to the mids or the mids to the forwards. or either way, vice versa. That's just sucks. If I was him, I'd be pretty annoyed going from the backs to the forwards and then back. Like, what sort of rhythm am I getting in? If that role becomes more consistent and they pick whether he is going to be a back or do they need another goal kicker, then maybe he can creep back into the best 18. But he's definitely one that's on the hot seat now and could be out of my best 18 next week.
Well, when Levi Caspel kicked it out on the full from 30 metres in front, like directly in front, I thought, thank God we got the coaches up there because someone can actually kick the footy. But of those 12 disposals, when he did use the footy, it was night and day how good he was. It's just getting the ball into his hands and him finding it and getting used to the new role. So watch this space for Jack Lukosius.
I'm going to move us on quickly now because we've spoken about him so much. Like I said, we've probably spoken about him too much. So we will move on to the next part of our show, which is the question of the round. So everyone's going to pick a hard-hitting question for the round coming up, and I want to see what you guys have down. So who out of you two wants to kick us off?
I'll go. Give it to me. I'm going to talk about Maddie Rowell, and I love talking about him, another Suns player. But last week, he had 33 disposals, 17 kicks, 16 handballs, 6 tackles, and a behind, which was almost a goal to go with it. One of his, I think, his best games in a Suns jersey by a country mile. A lot of stats back that up, but that was against West Coast D team, as I've spoken about before. Can he do it against the Melbourne Demons team, which is one of the deepest, best, most talented midfields in the league? If he can do that, he's going to be a fantasy stud for a very, very long time, as long as he can stay healthy. It's going to be a big test for our whole team, Gold Coast Suns as a whole, but if Maddie Rowell can step up and show some good things, it's a really big step in the right direction for us.
I guess the question is, can he work the ruck off Max Gawn? Because Max Gawn is going to eat in this game. Yeah, he is going to get plenty of hands on the footy, putting it down into the perfect spots for Petrarca and Oliver Wines. Like, yeah, Clayton is he going to be able to crumb off him? Clayton Oliver, wow. We're in shambles today.
They're the same player. Anyway, they honestly play so similar.
Exactly.
They're literally the same type of player. But is he going to be able to play off him? That's the big question. But what a great game. I love how you brought him up.
And what about you? What's your hard-hitting question for the week, Tom?
Yeah, I think this is classified as one of your boys, Callum. So I'll get into it. Tom Green. He has never cracked the 90 GameDay Squad average for AFL fantasy over a season. With the ripping round 1 score leading all players in the Swans and GWS game, he achieved a GameDay Squad score of 155 fantasy points. My question of the round, or maybe the season, is this a year the former number 10 pick in the 2019 draft class averages the 90 points per game and solidifies himself as a fantasy viable option for years to come?
Great question. Had a hot start.
Very good start. Mate, yeah. Watching it on the ground, I was like, can someone stop this guy?
Yeah, you're sitting there freaking out, and then you have Luke Parker on the other end kicking 5 goals. That's good. Is he my guy because I say my favourite Green from GWS, and I hate Toby Green, so it's like he's my favourite by... Yeah, okay, I'll take that. I was trying to figure it out. That's a good one. My question of the round is, can the rookies back it up in round 2? Massive, massive games. We spoke about Nick Martin. We spoke about Rochelle. Jack Hayes, massive game for the Saints. We haven't spoken a lot about him because he's come out of nowhere as well, a bit like Nick Martin. So, yeah, some great signs. Even the big guys that were meant to play well. Jason Horne-Francis, Dacos killed it. Dacos
was a freak.
Crazy first game. But the big thing about fantasy is people can always have big scores. You go through and you'll be like, how the hell did that person score 160 points that game? But it's all about consistency. That's what you want as a coach. You want players that have the high average. And that's what we're going to be looking for from all these guys in round 2. So, yeah, very keen to see, can those guys back it up?
A lot of eyes will be on these guys, 100%. Especially the big name guys. Nick Dacos, Josh Ward. We'll talk about Josh Ward. But, yeah, Nick Dacos, Jason Horne-Francis, these big guys, Josh Rochelle. If he can back it up with another one, he's going to be a cult figure already.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's good to see. Good to watch too. We're going to move on to stat of the week. So each week I'm going to give you a fantasy relevant stat that I've got, and I want you guys to see what you think of it. This week, before I do that, it's around setter bounce attendances. Now, you hear, or CBAs, you hear about them all the time in fantasy. And I'm going to throw to you, Kerm. Do you want to explain to our listeners why CBAs are so important to a fantasy score?
I absolutely will. And CBAs are a metric that a lot of fantasy coaches love to use because when it's paired with a simple equation, it gives us a great inside look into how and why fantasy points will be or how be scored. And that equation is opportunity equals production. And those who spend a lot of time around stoppages and the footy will most likely be the ones that score those big points because they're around the footy a lot more. It's also worth tracking CBAs to see if a defender or forward starts working their way into the midfield. And that's where you can find the value and see score increases where these players that are less likely to find the footy earlier on in the season through injuries or role changes, etc., etc. So remember that one, opportunity equals production. Where's the ball? It's usually around the stoppages. So that's why the midfielders get a lot of the footy, and that's where the scores come from.
That's why I throw to you. Brilliant little description there, Kerm. Now, on the back of that, my stat of the week. So I wanted to give you the highest centre bounce attendance for a player, not including rucks, because obviously they're in there a lot. So midfielders, defenders, forwards. So I wanted to give you the highest by percentage for the round one, and I also wanted to give you the highest from the actual count. So Jai Simpkin from North Melbourne actually spent 23 of the 23 centre bounces in the middle.
Wow.
So he didn't miss one. Yeah, so crazy stat, but he was there every time. And by number, Jack Steele attended 29 of the 31 for the Saints, and Tuke Miller attended 29 of the 31 for the Suns. Them two, of course, being the two highest scoring fantasy players last year. And as you said, Kerm, what was that equation?
Opportunity equals production.
It does, and no better example than those two guys being number 1 and 2. So if you don't follow CBAs, make sure you go check it out. There's a lot of good data floating around as well, but that's my stat of the week.
Love it. We love CBAs here.
We do.
Oh, yeah.
We do. And I love stats too, so I'm happy to keep giving them to you guys. You tell me if they're rubbish, if you like them or not. But what I do really want to get into, I don't care if you say it's rubbish, because I can't wait to stick my chest out for this one. Lock of the round. So a quick recap on how Lock of the Round works. Each week we pick a player, we tell you what their game day score minimum is going to be. We lock it in. We don't just say they're going to have a big round, we tell you what they're going to have. Now, we get the points allocated to us only if they achieve higher than that score. So as you can see there, for me you can't see there, but last week I went Patrick Cripps. I told you he was going to score 125 Game Day Squad points. He ended up scoring 140 or something. I don't know what it was in the end, but he got over the 125, so I got the 125. Tom, you got 115. Who got you the 115 last week?
I think I got 105 points. Callum Mills ended up scoring 115. So just snuck in there by 10. I was quite lucky with that one because he wasn't looking too good early on, but then found plenty of the footy later.
Yeah, so he snuck in there, so I missed that one. And Kerm, you are 0. What happened? Who's your player? What happened?
I had your boy Josh Ward. I liked the matchup against North Melbourne. Yeah. I thought he was going to have a big day, but the ankle injury that crept up sort of derailed his day, and he didn't hit my lofty expectations of 90 GDS points. I think he only finished with 59, so bit far off on that one.
Who's going to bounce back for you, though? Who have you got down? Who's your lock of the week?
I've gone with just about the safest option I think I could have, and it is his first game back, Sammy Walsh. Ooh. So it's either going to be a very depressing weekend watching footy knowing I haven't cracked it, or it's going to be a very happy one over the weekend. I've got him to score 101 GDS points.
You're playing the Sammy Walsh card very early in the season, and I love it. He needs to catch up on the points. He knows what's on the line here, so he's gone.
Boys.
Here you go, Sammy Walsh.
That's
give
the
me
other
the
thing.
100.
Yeah, important to note that we're only going to say one player's name once, and you can't say it again. So I've locked in Paddy Cripps. Told you he's going to win the Brownlow. I can't use him again. So yeah, 101. There you go. Bounce back. What about yourself, Tom? Who have you gone? Try and get 2 in a row.
Kerm, I love you playing it safe again, mate. I'm going a bit steeper this week, taking a bit more of a risk, and it's off a player who you mentioned before. He was playing a lot of time in the midfield, and it's Jordan Dougherty, and I'm taking him for 115 Game Day Squad fantasy points this week.
I love that.
Callum edged me out a little bit last week. I think he got an extra 10 or so points on me, so I need to make up that margin, and this is the man to do it.
Yeah, wow. There you go.
What about you, Callum?
Points. That's a lot of points.
Oh, yeah, but who have you got, man?
I went for someone to bounce back. Tom Stewart. So I think you roasted him last week. You called him a dud, Tom, in the review show. He had a pretty good game, but like we said, he's such a high-scoring defender historically in fantasy that any sort of drop-off makes him is noticeable. But he's going to have a lot more opportunity because down back he will be faced with a harder team than the Bombers, and that's going to be the Swans. The Cats are playing this week. So I've got him to score 100 points. I can be a little bit safer now because I'm a little bit ahead on the leaderboard. I think you guys have gone with some risky picks. I like both your players, but Dougherty's so up and down, and Sam Walsh, first game back.
First
So
game back.
I'm
exactly.
tipping myself to be nice and ahead come this time next week.
Degoe fired up, mate. Had a huge round 1. He is ready to get stuck in round 2. And Collingwood got the win as well, so they're going to want to try to keep that rolling.
Round 3 after, if you count round 1 in America, that counts as a round. He went a few rounds there. Damn. Too soon?
Too soon, brother. Come on.
Ready?
Well, I think we'll wrap it up there before I try and get Game Day Squad cancelled before we even get going, guys. So like I said, stay tuned. This will be coming out probably tomorrow morning or tonight. Again, being Thursday, so either Friday morning or Thursday, depending on how much I can get done during this game tonight. If it's a close one, it's probably going to be Friday morning. Tom, there's a few things we want to do again before we run off.
Yeah, guys, I mentioned it before, but if you've made it this far in the video, thank you for watching. Leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, push those post notifications on so you get a notification for our next upload that's coming out. Plenty of fantasy breakdowns to help you get game day ready.
Beautiful, beautiful. And just quickly, do we all think our team's going to have a win this week? Kerm?
No.
Not against Demons. Tom?
No.
Swannies are up, mate.
Swannies are getting up, and Port are going to flog Hawthorn. So till next time, guys, cheers, take care.